is Nur Azrin bin Hasbullah and I will present about the introduction of Small Medium Enterprise Challenge during COVID-19. Small and medium-sized companies are firms with sales asset and fewer than a specific number of employees. Each country has its own definition of what it means to be a small or medium-sized business. Each government may also establish varied rules across industries to determine what constitutes a small firm. Small and medium-sized enterprises play an essential role in the economy, employing a large number of people and shaping innovation. Moreover, small enterprises are the backbone of any economy, and as a result of the global impact of COVID-19 on economies, their protection is more vital than ever. Over the past decade or two, the sector of small businesses, as the language prefers small and micro enterprises, has grown steadily. However, confronting the fury of the coronavirus epidemic, the majority of these businesses will have trouble surviving in the current climate throughout the year. One of the greatest obstacles that small and medium-sized enterprises face is rising costs and declining revenues. 1 million businesses concur for various reasons. Among these include inflation, the cost of raw materials, insurance premiums, low product and service demand, and other typical business expenses. As numerous businesses recover from the effects of the pandemic, expenses of doing business and preserving profitability are paramount importance. Consequently, businesses must respond, and many have resorted to boosting prices on goods and services or laying off employees.
Hi, I'm Hanis and I will present Literature Review. What is Literature Review? A literature review is an academic paper that contextualizes the research that has been done on a certain issue. A literature review, as opposed to a literature report, incorporates a critical appraisal of the available literature. Now, let's know literature review about Small Medium Enterprise Challenge during COVID-19. Now, first article. First article title is Struggle of Malaysian SMEs during the COVID-19 pandemic. The article talk about COVID-19 make economic havoc and global chaos. Second, most firms, especially small, medium and micro-sized ones, have been affected. Not just that, Malaysia implemented Prihatin, also known as the Prihatin Rakyat Stimulus Package. Because of that, only allowed SMEs to survive 2 more months under the MCO. In addition, this article also said identified issues, which first, size matters for SMEs, second, bank loan delays and rejection, third, some firms are limited by wage subsidy program, fourth, unregistered SMEs, fifth, e-commerce affected SMEs differently, sixth, bureaucratic delays, 7. E-commerce policy gaps, and lastly, receivables management. Now, second article, Maintaining the Survival of Malaysian SMEs During COVID-19 Outbreak, Challenges and Suggestions for Management. The article talk about SMEs have limited cash flow. According SME Corporation Malaysia CEO, expect this worst case scenario. Next, this article also discuss about Malaysian SMEs Outbreak Challenge. First, business shutdown revenue loss, which the Ministry of Health recommend closing those providing critical services. Next, surviving cash shortage. Nearly 78% of SME corps fear financial commitment. Lastly, all marketing approach, which there are most SMEs advertised in newspaper and magazines. Lastly, third article, 1 year of SME and entrepreneurship policy responses to COVID-19, lessons learned to build back better. The article said SMEs are more vulnerable to the COVID-19 crisis than large firms because they have less financial capacity, a weak supply chain capability characterized by a lower level of mastery of digital tools and technologies. Lastly, salary subsidies and payment deferrals are used by 51 of 55 nations, while higher middle income countries rarely use them because upper middle income countries have higher living standards.
My name is Nurul Aimatrisha binti Muhammad Nurizam, and I will continue about the discussion based on macroeconomic theory. As we know, COVID-19 has affected small medium enterprise. After reviewing macroeconomic theory, we will move on to associated topics. COVID-19 first affects unemployment. Many believe unemployment is an economic issue, but it has a lot more of an effect than that. It may affect mental health, stress, and quality of life. It also affects the community. Due to the forced closure of many firms, only a few industries could operate at a subsistence level, causing a crisis in unemployment. Most firms cannot stay profitable, forcing them to close. This will increase unemployment. Despite the government's aid incentives, several SMEs had to lay off staff to minimize costs. Next, consumer behavior. Awareness, social psychology are related to panic buying. Thus, customers engage in self-protective activities like panic buying to reduce their perceived risk of sickness. People are more inclined to panic buy if they think a product will soon be out of stock and restrict their personal freedoms. But they are more likely to schedule buy if they think they will feel bad if they don't. Panic buying occurs when customers misinterpret crisis as soothing, protective, or stress-reducing. The unexpected causes many actions. Therefore, SME sales grew. Finally, economic growth affects SMEs. According to the Small Medium Enterprise, many SMEs survived the pandemic by investing in and using new digital technology. Despite evidence showing that SMEs are still behind larger companies in technology adoption and digital transformation, their attitude and ambition to stay ahead of the curve is commendable. In response, the Malaysian government launched many programs to help small-medium enterprises grow. Malaysia needs productivity boosting strategies to become a high-income economy. Last but not least, Malaysia has struggled to transition its approach from lower prices and bigger volumes to higher value, while other growing countries, especially China and India, have grown. Malaysia's aim to become a high-income nation relies on SMEs.
Hi, my name is Nasha Zwani and now I will be presenting the data or demographic about Small Medium Enterprise Challenge during COVID-19. As we all know, gross domestic product, also known as GDP, is a measurement of national revenue and output. The total cost of all finished goods and services produced domestically within a specific time period is the gross domestic product. Gross domestic product is one of the most extensively used metric of economic performance. GDP estimates a country economy's total output in a given period and is seasonally adjusted to avoid quarterly differences based on climate or vacations. The most extensively followed GDP indicator is also adjusted for inflation to evaluate changes in output rather than changes in the cost of goods and service. As we can see, Malaysia's GDP in 2015 was 1,176.9 billion ringgit, while SME GDP was 435.1 billion ringgit, making up 37% of Malaysia's overall GDP. Next, Malaysia's GDP in 2016 was 1,229.3 billion ringgit, while the GDP of SME was 458.7 billion ringgit, contributing 37.3% to Malaysian GDP, which is slightly higher than last year. Additionally, according to the time series of Malaysia's GDP in 2017, the country's GDP increased by 1,300.8 billion overall and 491.6 billion ringgit for SME's GDP. With Malaysia's GDP at 1,363.8 billion ringgit and the SME's GDP at 522.4 billion ringgit, which is 102.8 billion more than in 2017, the SME's GDP contribution to Malaysia's GDP is 37.8%, up from before but down from 2018 by 0.05% for a total of 38.3%. The GDP of Malaysia decreased by 78.9 billion ringgit between 2019 and 2020, totaling 1,424 billion ringgit in 2019 and 1,345.1 billion ringgit in 2020, while the GDP of SME decreased by Rm 553.4 billion ringgit between 2019 and 2020, totaling 512.9 billion ringgit. As can be seen, the GDP contribution of Malaysia's SME sector totals 38.9% in 2019 and 38.2% in 2020. To conclude, the highest SME's GDP happens in 2019 with a total of 38.9%, and the lowest is in 2015 with a total of 37%.
Next, my name is Sofia Natasha and I'll continue the next topic, which is discussion related on any newspaper. The special highlights in the newspaper is how COVID-19 impact on business and SMEs through global, regional and national perspective. On the global scenario, the COVID-19 pandemic's number are frightening. More than 1 billion people of all ages had their access to schools and institutions cut off during the first 3 months of the global pandemic. By November 2020, COVID-19 had spread to practically every nation, affecting more than 50 million people globally, resulted in over 1.25 million fatalities, and more than half of humanity was living under strict containment measures and lockdowns. Especially considering that the pandemic struck at a time when global trade was already slowing, the containment measures have had a devastating effect on the world economy. The World Trade Organization predicted that global trade would decline by between 13% and 32% in 2020. However, the systematic shocks, disruption of regular business operations, contraction in demand, breaks in supply chain connectivity, as well as travel and mobility restrictions have accelerated this decline. Due to the extensive economic disruptions in the G3 economies, SMEs, who are the most vulnerable category, are experiencing a significant drop in demand for their products. In its COVID-19 business impact survey, which covered 4.4 thousand enterprises in 132 countries, the International Trade Center (ITC) found that 55% of respondents were significantly impacted by the epidemic and the ensuing containment measures. In comparison to roughly 40% of large enterprises, nearly 2/3 of SMEs claim their company operations are significantly impacted. 1/5 of SMEs claim they were in danger of going out of business permanently. Next, impact of COVID-19 on Malaysian business. From 10 April to 1 May 2020, during phases 2 through 4 of the MCO, the Department of Statistics Malaysia conducted a special survey entitled Effects on COVID-19 on Economy and Companies or Businesses Firms. The poll included 4,094 businesses, of which 43.4% were micro-enterprise, 40.4% were small and medium-sized enterprise, 9.1% were major corporation, and 7.2% were the other. More than 2/3 of respondents, which is 67.8%, reported no revenue during this time, while only a small percentage, which is 12.3%, generated sales online, and 9.8% continued to generate sales through physical stores. The majority of respondents, which is 83.1%, stated that they require government financial assistance or subsidies to ease their business challenges. 67% stated that a reduction in company or any associated taxes is required, and 39.1% asked for a delay in loan repayments. 42.5% of respondents said it would take more than 6 months for their business to recover when asked about their expectation for business recovery. 28.7% anticipated that they would need 4 to 6 months. 17.9% 2 to 3 months. 9% less than 2 months. And last but not least, 1.9% would stop operating. And that's all from me. Thank you.
In conclusion, the result of this study have shown that COVID-19 has an effect on small-medium enterprises in a number of different ways. The ways in which these small-medium enterprises adjust to the pandemic in order to survive, as well as the ways in which the assistance of the government helps small-medium enterprises survive during the crisis. According to the findings of the study, majority of small and medium-sized businesses are moving toward adopting digital distribution channels in order to remain competitive. Specifically, the findings suggest that governments should provide funding for small and medium-sized businesses. Aside from that, governments should encourage non-governmental organizations, NGOs, to provide small and medium-sized enterprises with financial or non-financial assistance in the form of consultation, training, advice, counseling, and psychology support in order to assist small-medium enterprises in coping with the challenges that have been caused by COVID-19. According to the findings of the current research, small and medium-sized businesses should use the lessons learned from the financial crisis and come up with innovative ideas and tactics to assure their continued viability in the future. That's all. Thank you.